Hi, it's Penny here, also known as Lethal Lime Reads, and as usual, I'm here to talk about some bookish things. Specifically, today we're going to talk about all the books that I've bought recently-ish. So I don't usually buy books, although I do have 20 books to talk about today. Oops. I will say most of these books I bought at secondhand shops or book fairs, and so they were like $2, $2.50. So I think that's acceptable. I don't feel too guilty, although I do know that I was trying to get my physical TBR down and it was like about 70-ish books before this, and now it's going to be a lot more. But anyway, that's fine. I wanted them all, so I've got them. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the books that I actually purchased new. I think there's about 5 of them, and then I'll get into my op shop finds, and then finally all the ones I got at the recent book fair. I guess another perspective for the op shop and the book fair things is that all the money goes to charity, so I can feel good about helping different charities. Alright, so new books. Some of these I bought a little while ago, but I haven't talked about them much. Some of them I've talked about a little bit. So firstly, I picked up the 10th book of the Kate Daniels series. This is the 10th and final book. I already read it earlier in the year, last year. Whenever it came out, I borrowed it from the library, but I did want my own copy. I am a little bit sad because it's not quite the same size as the other 9 books that I have in the series. Like this one, I think is like the second book, and you can see different heights. Bummer. But not the end of the world. I do think the cover for this one is pretty good, so I guess I will learn to deal with the fact that it's different. It's not so bad now because I've got my shelves rainbowized. They're all in different places anyway. Before they used to all be next to each other, so it was really obvious. Now it's not so obvious. Then I also picked up the collector's edition for the Darker Shade of Magic series, and I have also pre-ordered the 3rd book. The main reason I did this is because I heard that the 3rd book, the collector's edition, is going to have Kel's backstory in it, and that's something I'm really interested in. And I decided if I was going to buy the collector's edition of the 3rd book, then I really needed to have the first 2. And I am really happy with these books. I think they're really beautiful and lovely, so I'm counting that as a win. Then I did also pick up a couple of books from The Warehouse. The Warehouse in New Zealand is this like bargain department store, and they often have little bargain bins of books. I try not to look at them, but occasionally I do, and I ended up picking up for $3, well $3.07 actually, but what kind of price is that? So I picked up The Time Machine and Other Stories by H.G. Wells. I really love time travel stories, so it's ridiculous that I haven't read The Time Machine, and since it was only $3, I thought, why not get myself a copy? So I did. And then I also picked up for $16, which I debated whether this was actually worth it, but I guess I decided it was, and that is Legion and the Many Lives of Stephen Leeds by Brandon Sanderson. I love Brandon Sanderson. I don't really know much of what this is about. Something about a guy named Stephen Leeds who has different aspects of himself, and the different aspects of himself have different skills. I don't know, but I have seen some people talk about this and say it's good. I think it's actually the wrap-up of several like shorter stories. So an omnibus edition of the 3 amazing novellas Legion, Legion Skin Deep, and Legion Lies of the Beholder. So 3 stories in here, and I will be excited to get to this at some point. So those are all the new books that I bought. It's not too many. I think this is all the new books I bought for the whole year. So it's like nothing really. So then we'll talk about op shop books. So one time we stayed in this fancy hotel for free in town, and while we were there we went for a wander and we found this really cool secondhand bookshop, and it had this big shelf of fantasy books, and I wanted to buy a lot, but they were $6 each, and so I limited myself to 2. The first one I got is In the Ruins by Kate Elliott. This is the 6th book in a 7-book series where I have all other 6 books, so I needed to pick up the 6th one, and since I found it, I decided to get it. But there will be an additional comment to this book when I get to a later book. We'll just put it aside. I also found the 2nd book of the Galactic Maloo trilogy, Diamond Mask. So this is a really cool trilogy all about people developing their psychic powers, but it's also a murder mystery. I've read it before, but I really loved it and I want to reread it, as well as the other series that's set in the same world, except the other series is back in time and both the stories link into each other because there's time travel. I love time travel. So I'm really excited to reread this series. And for $6, I couldn't resist picking up the second book. I love this 90s style cover. It's just so beautiful. But then we went to another op shop and I found the first and the third books from the same series in the same style, which I was so impressed. And it was just these first and third ones, like it was just waiting to go with my beautiful second one. I like to imagine that originally they all lived together somewhere and I've reunited them. So we've got Jack the Bodiless as the first one, then Diamond Mask is the second one, and Magnificat is the third one. I'm so excited that I managed to get hold of that whole series. And for like $10 total. Good deal. Then another day we did go to another book fair and the books here were also $2 and I managed to get The Power of One by Bryce Courtenay. So I realized a little while ago that for some reason I only have on my shelves Tandia, the sequel, and I know my mum has a copy of The Power of One. She's never going to give that up. So I thought I would get my own copy of this. It's a story about this young boy growing up in Africa, and I guess it's a story about race and justice and violence. It's a story about a lot of things. I haven't read it in a long time, but I would like to reread it, as well as rereading the sequel Tandia. Then at that same thrift shop, I managed to find Dawn's Early Light by Pip Valentine and T. Morris. Now this is the second book in the Ministry of Peculiar Occurrences series, and I do have the first book on my TBR shelves and I haven't read it yet, so I really shouldn't be letting myself pick up the sequel, but I was just in the mood where I wanted to pick up books. I don't even know that much about the series except I think it's like steampunk. I've liked all the other stuff I've read by Philippa Valentine. She's also a New Zealand author, although she lives in America, so I was interested to get more of her stuff. I'll get to it at some point. Okay, so now we're going to talk about all the ones that I got at the book fair recently. I actually went back because it's a 3-day book fair. I went on the first day and the last day and picked up lots of books both times. It was a lot of fun. But let's talk about the most interesting one, I think, in terms of stories. So they do this book fair at a school and there's this classroom dedicated to children's books, and it has like really young children's books as well as like chapter books for older children, but it's all children's books, and the children's books are also cheaper. They're only $1 each or 50 cents if it's like quite a small book. So while I was going through the children's books, I found In the Ruins by Kate Elliott, and you might notice that that's the same book as this one, but I love these covers way better. And it's $1. So I bought this, which means this $6 one I don't really need anymore. Oops, I'll find a new home for that one. But this one, what's especially funny about it being in the children's section, I mean, I guess somebody looked at it and was like, oh, A Beautiful Fairy, that's a lovely children's book. But really, it's like a 500-page book. And this series is all about war and people fighting over the kingdom and dark magic and murder and rape. Like, it should not be in the children's section. And I can only imagine what could have happened if a child had picked this up. So I did a good deed by buying it. I saved the children from being traumatized. And I got myself a pretty book at the same time. So I also picked up The Murder Complex by Lindsay Cummings. So Lindsay Cummings wrote, what's it called? Nexus is the sequel. The first one was called Zenith. So Lindsay Cummings is the author who wrote Zenith along with Sasha Alsberg, who's a well-known booktuber, and I read Zenith, didn't really enjoy it. I'm kind of interested to see what Lindsay's writing is like when she's writing alone. Also, this is more of like a paranormal horror, I believe, so I don't know, I picked it up just because curiosity mainly, and I was kind of surprised to find it. It made its way all the way down here to New Zealand. I never expect to find anything in New Zealand because quite often shipping is very expensive to New Zealand, and so certain things just don't really make their way down here. But since I'm talking about how difficult it is for things to get to New Zealand, I'll talk about some other surprises I found. And that is, I also found an advanced reader's copy of The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock. I read this earlier this year? Last year. sometime I read this, and it's really weird, but there were some parts I really liked, probably some parts I didn't like. It's like a historical fantasy. The fantasy is questionable, like you're never sure, is there really a mermaid, is there not? There's kind of two mermaids, and the second kind of mermaid I thought was so unique and amazing, and I loved it. So I thought I would pick this up, especially because it's an ARC. I never expect to see those in New Zealand. I just think publishers won't bother sending books down here because it's too far away and there's not enough people. But it turns out they do. I've actually found a few ARCs lately. I found one in this middle of nowhere, scary as shit op shop, and there was another reader copy at the book fair that I saw. I didn't pick up either of those because I wasn't really interested in them, but this one, I thought, why not? It's got like these weird pink pages, and it really is a beautiful book, so I'm glad to be able to have it on my shelves. And the other book that has an interesting feature is this copy of Elantris that I found. Now, unfortunately, it is a bit ruined, and like looking at the book under the dust jacket, all ugly, but it is an autographed copy, and I will admit also that Brandon Sanderson's signature is boring, really boring, and I had to Google in the middle of the book fair whether it was even really his signature, but it looks like it is. So I thought, well, why not get an autographed copy of Elantris? I do really like Elantris, although I do already have a paperback copy, and I think if I was ever going to reread this, I would much prefer to read the paperback copy because it's so much smaller. Like, look at the difference in size. This way and this way. I'd definitely rather cuddle up with this in bed than cuddle up with this. But it's signed, so why not? It's also got this annoying sticker. Like, why would you stick a horrible sticker on an autographed book and like just devalue it straight away? Why would you do that? Honestly, some booksellers do some really questionable things. Okay, we've still got a big stack here. So, also I picked up this copy of Tales of Suspense by Edgar Allan Poe. This is just a bunch of his short stories. I mainly bought it because it just looks like the kind of book that would be cool to have on your shelves. Is that a good reason? It's $2.50. It's fine. I've just noticed as well it has this weird little like Reader's Digest thing in the front about this book. That's weird. I've only read a few Edgar Allan Poe stories and I've enjoyed them, so I would like at some point to read some more of his stuff. I also picked up Libromancer by Jim C. Hines. So I've seen him mentioned a lot, but I've never read any of his stuff. Maybe some of his short stories. I'm not sure, but I have seen this series mentioned before. I believe it's like a librarian who has some kind of magical powers and has to protect the world with those powers. I don't really know, but it's something that I would like to read. Then I got these ones, which I think are totally bizarre. I already talked about them in my reading vlog, although did I post that one? And that is these Avril Lavigne graphic novels that are also illustrated by this artist, Camilla D'Errico, who I follow on Instagram. So it's kind of weird that I never knew that she did some kind of Avril Lavigne collaboration. It looks like it'll have some kind of paranormal aspect because there's some kind of cute little monster. I don't know, they're ex-library books from a local school, so I couldn't resist picking them up. Like, I'm not a huge Avril Lavigne fan, but I like her stuff okay, and I'm just really interested to see what an Avril Lavigne graphic novel might be like. Then I also found a few Babysitters Club books, and I have a big stash of about 50 Babysitters Club books in my closet, and most of the ones I found I already have in there. I don't know that I need a Babysitters Club book collection, but I have one, and I don't have book number 103, so I thought, why not pick it up? It was $1. Why not? This is Happy Holidays, Jessie. Sure, cool, one day I'll read it. Then I also found Third Degree by Tanya Roxburgh. So Tanya Roxburgh was my sixth form drama teacher. I remember hearing about when she released this like just after I left school. So I'm interested to see what my drama teacher might write a story about. Then I also picked up The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. So there were a few classrooms dedicated to bargain books, which I guess are books that they've had a long time and nobody's really been interested in buying them. I went through all of that. They're only $1. I couldn't find many that I was interested in, but I did find this. I've seen these books all the time at op shops and markets, and so I thought, fine, the universe clearly wants me to buy it. Although really all it means is that a lot of people have bought this and read it. Because you would not believe how many copies of Twilight the book fair has. Also Divergent and Hunger Games were pretty common amongst the books. There's just, you can tell the really common books because they're everywhere. So I don't read that many thrillers, but I wanted to get to this at one point, and for $1 I don't have to try to get hold of it. I've got it. Then I also found the 4th book in the Percy Jackson series, and I just finished reading the 1st book in the series and I quite enjoyed it, so I decided that I would pick up the 4th book. Now I don't own the 2nd or the 3rd books, but this is the same kind of edition as my 1st book, so at least they go together. Maybe one day I'll find the 2nd and the 3rd book. Although the question is whether I'll wait until then to continue the series or whether I will just get books from the library. I'm not sure, but I don't think that I would buy these ones new because I'm pretty confident that at some point I will be able to find them secondhand. Then I also picked up Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. So I already have Red Queen on my TBR shelf. I haven't got to reading it yet. I know that reviews of this series are very mixed. Some people love it, some people hate it and think it's not very unique. I don't know how I will feel. I'm a little bit scared that I won't like it, but my sister was there at the book fair with me and I asked her should I buy this, and she seemed sort of interested in it, so I thought, you know what, if I read the series and I don't like it, I can just give these books to her. And they are pretty, so at least they've got that going for them. Oh, and that is all of the fiction books that I got. I did also manage to pick up a couple of non-fiction ones that I was interested in, although actually, I already own both of these. So this one, Images in Organization, is a really great book about different ways of structuring organizations. I read it when I was at university and I really loved it, but my copy from university has heaps of writing through it because I got it when I was at university. I had to buy secondhand because I didn't have a lot of money, but now I can afford $2.50 to buy a version that's like beautiful and new, and I did want to reread this at some point, and now it'll be a beautiful experience and I can put my own notes on it without having some other idiot that's highlighted like whole pages. Like, what's the point in highlighting a whole page? So now I got my own beautiful copy. And I also picked up Innovation and Entrepreneurship by Peter Drucker. So Peter Drucker is another one who I read quite a lot of essays by when I was in management school, and I really respect his opinion. And Innovation and Entrepreneurship is a book that I really want to read. I must really want to read it because when I got back home I discovered I already have another copy on my shelf. This version's littler though, but the writing's tiny, so I'm not sure which one I would probably prefer to read. Probably the other one, to be honest. But if I like this, then I can lend this out to people and recommend it to people. So it's good to have like a little spare copy that I can lend out. So those are all 20 books that I have acquired recently. I think actually that's all the books that I've purchased this year, although most of them were purchased in the last week. Honestly, most of the books left on my physical TBR are from this book fair that I went to last week. I just can't seem to stop myself from buying lots of books. However, I have been getting that shelf down recently, so hopefully, even though I've just bumped it up a bunch, I can get it down again to a reasonable level this year. That's the plan anyway. Do let me know if you have read any of the books I talked about today. What do you think about them? Are they worth reading? Were they worth my $2.50? Or were any of the books in this haul something that you're hoping to read in the future? Maybe you can motivate me to pick them up sooner. Otherwise, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.